Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I am joined today by a very special group of people. You should just, there you go. Oh, good. You made it. So we're joined. Thank you all for coming. And we are here for a really important evening because we are celebrating Nikki and the 30th anniversary of the Star Knowledge Conference. And I'm going to give all of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves for those watching that may not know who you are. I'm sure most do, but just in case. And then we'll talk about this evening what each one of us will be presenting on. And I want Nikki to start off by sharing with everybody how important this conference is, and what is the Star Knowledge Conference? It's been going on for quite some time. Give us the background and what you're hoping to get out of this year.
Well, it started in 1996 as a test, and he said, we'll see where this goes, and obviously it worked. So 30 years will be in June, and you can ask a lot of people, and especially Aron. Bret, this will be his third time. How amazing it is, and all the people that get together to share important things for humanity.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we start with Bret then? Bret, why don't you introduce yourself? Let us know what you do, what you present about, and what your thoughts are on the conference.
Okay. Hi, my name is Bret Leuder. Welcome everybody to all our viewers. This is my new book, Agents of Ascension, UFO PR, and it's basically about two hierarchies of beings. One's trying to gently nudge humanity towards ascension, while the other's trying to disrupt that process. I'm going to be speaking about a facet of the book called, and the lecture's called A War of the Words and the Magic of Society, and it's about how society is a magical ritual designed to manifest a specific outcome that's not really good for humans. And, I heard about the Star Knowledge Conference for years as I was growing up in the West Coast and going to the Bay Area UFO Expo. The legendary Bay Area UFO Expo has its own a legend behind it. And I saw all the top speakers, and every so often we'd have a native speaker there, Robert Ghostwolf or Nancy Red Star, for example. And they would tell me about this conference called the Star Knowledge Conference that was somewhere back on the other side of the Mississippi. None of that world even existed for me back then. It was all mythological. Mm-hmm. But the conference in particular was celebrated on the West Coast because the natives were coming forward, putting their past differences beside them, which, just from that standpoint alone is absolutely tremendous as we move forward. But putting the past differences aside, conquest, whatnot, and revealing their knowledge for the benefit of all, because they understood, I think, more than modern culture, that we need to stand together to face what's coming. And so that always just created this kind of a mythological image in my mind about the Star Knowledge Conference. I never thought that I would be there. It just seemed like fantasy land for me, right? And just a chance meeting with a relative at my Las Vegas conference. I was at the Alien event in Las Vegas in 2024, and I met a lady. Her name was Vivica Davis. She turned out to be my cousin that we'd known about each other for 45 years and never actually met.
Wow.
And 2 weeks after that, she goes, "You know what? There's 3 of us ladies that are driving out there, and we would like a male chaperone to come out there with us to drive them out there." And I was the guy. And so all of a sudden, serendipity, right? I just find myself in Pickstown, South Dakota, at the Star Knowledge Conference in support of my great aunt Doris Davis, the walking woman. And that's a whole story right there. But luckily I had brought some nice clothes, and by the end of the conference, the ladies all conspired and said, Bret, you're going to get to speak for 25 minutes. So that it just happened that way. I can't explain it. It's just one of those things that from above was brought together. And so that's how I got to the Star Knowledge Conference. What an honor it was for me to be there. And so my 25-minute talk was actually kind of a prototype of the talk that I'm doing now. So now I'm going to be doing this talk where it's much more detailed and organized. And so it was a little uneasy for me to just speak without notes with that short a notice, but
I
it was
bet.
a step in growth for me. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of this conference too. It's about spiritual growth. It's about learning about other cultures and how we really have different cultures have more in common than not. And it's really the governments that are on top that create a bunch of the issues for people, because people really know how to treat people when they want to. It doesn't matter where you're from. And so that's just one of the reasons why I feel very honored to speak at the Star Launch Conference for the third time. Very cool.
That's incredible, Bret. Thank you for sharing. And I think you said something that I truly live by, and I believe more and more people are aligning with the ancient wisdom of, there is no separation and there's no competition. And when you take the ego out and we come together, we can share knowledge and then we can expand. And that's the beauty. So I am so honored to be invited, Nikki, to this conference to speak about the things that I know that perhaps I can teach, but I'm also excited to learn. I think we can all learn something from each other at all walks of our life. We never stop learning and growing. So it's just beautiful that this has been going on for so long. And I get to come at the 30th anniversary. That's pretty cool. So thank you, Nikki. Aron, do you want to introduce yourself and share?
Sure. Well, first thing I'd like to say is the 30th anniversary, and it's the same year as the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. There's so much going on. We all feel the incoming golden age coming in. And I just want to thank Nikki for carrying the torch, because it's no small thing. She's got a lot of love and support around her to help her. She's a super mom, and she's an inspiration to me. Her dad was an amazing guy. Today people might not think what a big deal it was to what he did to create this conference, but back then, this is before the internet. And how I learned about it was I was living in Fort Collins, Colorado, and when there was a conference, you just have flyers pasted all around town at that time. There was every store window was talking about this conference that was happening in Estes Park. This was the second one, 4 months after the first one, in November of 1996. And I was a young guy, not really focused on, UFOs and that kind of thing. Although I had my brother and I, when we were kids, he was give or take around 4 and I was 7. One of the fun things that we liked to do was go into the bathroom at night, turn the lights out, look at the stars out the window. And we just loved looking at the stars as little kids. And one night there was a ball of light hovering over the train station next door to where we lived. And it was just hovering there. We didn't know what it was. It was very magical. It shot up into the air at an angle and did a couple zigzags and changed colors at the same time while it was doing that, and then just took off into the infinite. And so he and I, my brother and I, shared that. It's nice when you can share something like that with somebody else. It wasn't just you seeing it. But at the time, when I first learned about the conference, I was more on like a personal spiritual journey, and definitely Native American indigenous wisdom was a part of my journey at that time. But there was an electricity in the air when that conference was happening, because you had a lot of really well-known people doing the circuit, like Drunvalo Melchizedek was there. You had Alex Collier was there. You had Jose Fernandez from Puerto Rico was there. Grandmother Windrider. I mean, incredible stuff. I mean, you had a guy show up with an Atlantean statue, a marble statue of Ganesh that had milk precipitating out of its bosom, and it was from Atlantis.
Wow.
You had people with this same gentleman had Polaroids of him going up into craft, and this is 30 years ago. Polaroids, you can't fake a Polaroid. So we had incredible activity surrounding these conferences. You had manifestations such as like at the first one, and there's a picture of it. Maybe Nikki can dig that picture up. But everybody was praying in a circle for unity, and the clouds above the circle on the ground formed a circle above them in the sky. Yeah, and just all kinds of incredible connections. You had, you had Bob Dean was there. You had former people that were in the military that shared their experiences of UFOs hovering over military silos and shutting down the nuclear missile heads during the Cold War and stuff like this. And I mean, having a little bit of history of, where we've come. I mean, Nikki's dad had death threats against him, starting this conference. He had resistance from his tribe. He had resistance from people in general. From his tribe, I think, some people didn't want him to share some of the sacred knowledge of the idea that we have star nations, their star relatives, and their family, their cosmic family. And at that time, that was a big, big deal. Like, for me, especially as a young guy, the idea that we're all related, Mitakuye Oyasin, we're all related. And that includes our star family. Today, it's just, it's everybody kind of, it's common knowledge that there's star nations and stuff. Back then, I don't think it was common knowledge that there were star nations and thought of it that way. But he was Nikki's dad was a hysterical guy. I spent a good bit of time with him for a couple of years, traveling to the conferences that he was doing. He was holding sometimes 2 and 3 conferences a year all over the country. So you had lots of incredible souls like yourselves, lots of incredible authors, people doing amazing work, and sometimes risking their life, and having great courage to get us to where we are today. And where are we today? Where we are today is the world is waking up, and there's disclosure on a mass level going on right now. And, it's because of a lot of sweat lodges, a lot of prayers, a lot of people meditating, a lot of people just, risking it all to bring the truth so we can get out of this cosmic quarantine, of being this little controlled race on the earth where we deserve to be free. We're God's children. That spark is within us all. No one person has the right to hold the rest of humanity back from their divine purpose. And so thank God, a lot of people on both sides have, it's been a battle royale, and thank God, God wins in the situation. And I believe that with all my heart. So Nikki asked me to come on, and I've been supporting her since this is your 4th year, right, Nikki, since your dad passed? What, 5th year? Wow. And you have 5 kids, right, Nikki? 5 children, a couple of grandchildren.
Anyway. Yep, 5 kids, 3 grandbabies.
Yeah. So, I'm just a big supporter of whatever we can do to come together and help humanity grow beyond the idea that it's just us in cosmic space, which is ridiculous at this point. We're all family, and it's time to grow up and act like it, basically.
I know.
So
you're so right. You are so right. You hit it right on the nail. And that brings me to Yssah. I really respect your work too, because I believe bringing the science and spirituality element is something that is so important, because we've discounted the metaphysical for so long and the spiritual element. And if we can just combine the two, we have this cosmic, explosions of potential. And your work is amazing. Let's what are you going to be presenting on?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you, Sherri, for opening this space for us to convey this message. And I mean, Nikki, we're talking about the 30th anniversary, 30 years, that's huge, that's a huge history going on there. So thank you for everything that you and your father have planted in the collective awareness, because as Aron was saying, now we're comfortable with all these terms, but at that time it was, pioneering on at many levels. And unity consciousness Ergo, unified science and spirituality is something that I am passionate about. Why? Because through my path of remembrance, I began through the Incas' wisdom. You know, they call it the Queros, the descendants of the Incas. And in a very organic way, how I started unraveling all this path led me to sacred geometry. And then all the ancient civilizations that also bring sacred geometry through their teachings. And we know that sacred geometry, space geometry is something that it's very scientific as well. So then the more that I started diving into this path, the more that I was saying, like, you know, like the shamanic practices are highly quantum. You know, perhaps they are using other words, other terms, but it's the same. You know, it's a high awareness of the unified field. You know, spirit as ether, as plasma, plunk plasma. And then it all started making more sense of how a unity consciousness is the key, you know, like when we talk about spirituality, we can name it unity consciousness. When we talk about quantum physics, we can refer to it as the Planck plasma or that unified field. And the thing is that they erased it. They erased that, well, try to erase from our awareness that key that unifies everything. So then that translates at a spiritual level as well, because if we say what's missing in humanity, that we cannot fully connect with one another. Why is it so hard? Why Nikki's father went through such a hard time trying to bring the tribes together? What does this truly mean? And I believe that it's remembrance, precisely, remembrance of our origins. So like regarding to your question, Sherri, what I will be talking about is precisely these prophecies and how these prophecies are bringing awareness that there will be very specific ancient artifacts that will be emerging to the surface and that will be activators bringing supporting this path of remembrance, you know, because again, the indigenous tribes, as we all, each one, we hold codes, source codes and our own tribal codes. You know, we can call it as area codes. So, but the tribes, they are so important in this cosmic mission. You know, it's not only about Earth wise, you know, like terrestrial mission, like the codes that they hold connect, they bridge Earth to the galactic reality, to that cosmos. In every teaching, the way that they would transmit it through frequency, they knew how important and how the key, like the difference from learning than from remembering is remembrance is something that is already within. Whereas learning is like you're trying to bring from the outside something. So it's that this connection of awareness that we already hold the codes for everything. And something that I have been tuning into in how important the presence of the indigenous tribes is. This is why it hasn't been able to eradicate them, because it's so important for their codes to be present in the area. Otherwise, there cannot be any activation of the technologies underground. So their presence is fundamental. The thing is that the more that we expand this awareness and support to them, they will feel comfortable and safe enough to open these codes because it's a unity, it's a collective mission, not only for them or not only for us, it's acknowledging myself in the other, you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, words cannot truly measure the high value of what you, Nikki, and your father have been doing for 30 years and even before. Because right now we're starting to see that more people is trying to bring that unity consciousness in the tribes, because again, if we just stand up as an observer for a bit and ask ourselves, why is this knowledge so important? It's not because it is empowering at so many levels, like you were talking about the sweat lodge, like all these powers that really bring you, to face yourself in a very impactful form. It's also because the connection to the spirit is the purest form of connection, of interconnectivity that we can have to truth. Because there, the level of communication that we have with ourselves, it doesn't correspond to an outer source. It all comes from within. So I will be talking about this and many other things.
That's amazing. I mean, I could hear you talk all day. You're very hypnotic in a good way when you speak. It's like I go into a trance. I'm like, yes, give me more. Do me a favor, Yssah, really quickly, because we're not going to give this person any attention, but there is someone harassing us in the chat, and I cannot remove them because it's coming from someone else's page. So I can't. It's saying I can't remove them, and so it might be yours. Can you
Sure.
if it's on your end?
Sure.
Let's ban this person. We don't need that energy in our group.
Of course.
Not to give them any attention. We're just removing them. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Back on track. Real quick, I just want to post this. This advertisement. So 30th anniversary Star Knowledge Conference, June 5th through the 7th. So it's a beautiful time of year. Travel to South Dakota. And Nikki, tell us a little bit about, how people can get there, where they can stay. I know they can find out all of this online and it's, it's not a big deal, but I thought maybe we can just share it real quickly for people. And how many speakers are going to be there?
Oh my gosh. 20, possibly 25 or more.
It's a lot of speakers.
Close to 28 yeah. Speakers. And don't forget, if anybody wants to vend, to text me 605-491-1485. You can stay at Fort Randall Casino Inn Hotel or Fort Randall Inn in Pickstown, and it's next to another place where I work at Knotheads. There's a hotel in Wagner. There is a place, the Bellagio in Avon. There are places an hour away in Mitchell or Yankton. There's an Airbnb in Lake Andes. I mean, if you text me, if you email me, I can give you other places to stay too.
I just put in the chat the website, and you have all the information there as well, like where you can stay. You get some suggestions. What's the closest airport?
The closest hotel would be Fort Randall Casino, and it's 3 miles up the hill. Oh, airport is Sioux Falls.
Okay, Sioux Falls. Okay.
Yep.
Just in case people are not from the area and they're looking at how they would get there. And you mentioned the other day something about a sweat lodge on the first night. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, we have a sweat lodge the night before to clear energy or, to pray, because it is a part of the ceremony, but we didn't, it's not included in the 3 days. So it's just something we do prior, and you're more than welcome to come. We can fit over 40-50 people in there.
Oh wow, that sounds exciting.
Could I share a little story about a sweat lodge with Nikki's dad 30 years ago?
Yeah, please.
Okay. This was on the Yankton Sioux Reservation, And when you're in the sweat lodge, if you're not used to it, there's a lot of spirit lights that can come in there because you're praying. And when we came out of this one lodge, there was a UFO that came down into the woods and flew right behind the sweat lodge. And there's probably at least 20 or 25 of us there. We all watched it. It was only about 50 yards behind the sweat lodge. And so these are, in a lot of cases, angelic helpers that hear our prayers, and they come in different forms. So that was a very special moment. I said, "Look, everybody, look at that." And everybody was like, "What are you talking about? This is normal." I'm like, "This is normal? this is awesome. Wow." But no, it's completely normal. They didn't say anything. It's like, okay, he hasn't seen this before.
Right? That is great.
Yeah.
Do you have any, Bret, do you have any stories from previous events that you've attended that you want to share?
Oh my God.
I'm sure you have a lot.
Where to begin? I sprouted my antlers going all the way back to 1999 at the first or second Bay Area UFO Expo, and meeting Jordan Maxwell and Whitley Strieber and the JJ and Desiree Hurtak, and all kinds of crazy things. So, do you guys know who Ed Grimsley was?
I don't know.
So Ed Grimsley was the guy that brought out the night vision goggles. He was the first guy to do that. Okay. And I remember being at a party upstairs in the suite on Sunday night, and all the speakers and a lot of the attendees were up there, packed house, and there was this hullabaloo out inside the balcony, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And someone came out and said, "Oh my God, they're everywhere." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Ed Grimsley's got these night vision goggles. You got to go check it out." So I went out there, and you just look up there, and maybe if you're patient, you could see some movement. Maybe you could see something with the naked eye, but you put these night vision goggles on, right? And it was just like a galactic super highway of activity, stuff flying around. I don't know if it was all hard craft or orbs, or I think it was a combination of both. But it's like a UFO event can be like some kind of a beacon, that kind of, I think, gives a signal to some higher realms that maybe something good's going on down here on Earth instead of the normal squalor we might see on the news. And so that was a real mind blower for me. At this stage, Aron, I remember being at the Gilliland Ranch and seeing a UFO for the first time. And easily people could tell I was the newbie, right?
Yeah.
And now,
by the way, Whitley Strieber spoke at that Star Knowledge Conference 30 years ago in Estes Park. He was there too. Right. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So just the awareness of this other reality that you're not taught about in quote unquote public schools, and you're not taught about this stuff for a reason, because there's a certain group of people that are behind public education. They're behind the medical establishment. They're behind politics and law, and we are really coming up within the context of this spiritual battle, and ufology's right in the center of it. And so, one of my lectures that I gave in the past was called "Who Am I and Why Am I a Ufologist?" And ufology is a spiritual pursuit. It puts you in touch with all the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my place within this grand scheme of things? And whether or not you think that their UFOs are good or bad or a mix of both, which is my position, I think Aron hit it right on about a quarantine. Like the universe is too big for us to be the only ones here. So clearly there's going to be some, I'd bet money that there's going to be some benevolent alien beings, maybe the relatives of ours, maybe not, that are made within God's creation. But I think because humanity is being tested and we're undergoing this ongoing spiritual trial, that we've been quarantined so that our little experiment doesn't hurt anybody else. But I think because we're at the level we're at, we're dealing with some not very good beings, I think largely. That doesn't mean there's not good ones that are making contact in various places, but it's not blown open because they're waiting to see. I think the good ones are waiting to see what kind of decisions humanity makes. Are we going to embrace ourselves? Are we going to look within, as Yssah was talking about? Are we going to stop taking creature comforts over spiritual sovereignty? Are we going to allow AI to run amok over us, or are we going to use our God-given abilities and live under His will and live within the balance of the earth? And I think, if I want to just use some archetypal positions right now, I'm a product of modern society. I'm a product of the Anglo-Saxon European mentality, and we don't live within the balance of nature like other cultures do. And so this is what's really fascinated me about Star Knowledge Conference. And of course, the books of Nancy Red Star were really big for me, Star Ancestors, is that there's a way to live within your means that's in balance with the environment. And then then things like greed and competition take over that put you out of balance with it. And so I think our society, the current modern society right now, is heading over a cliff at some point. The monetary system is going to change here soon. There's going to be a big collapse. The elites have been building underground bases for decades. They're expecting something, whether it's a extrasolar body, a meteor or something, or nuclear war. I mean, we see this in the media all the time. I personally don't think that's going to happen, but these are tools of the dark side to instill fear in the people. So it's more important now than ever, and it will get even more important in the future, for all of us to stick together, to be at peace, find peace in your own heart, begin to answer those big questions for yourself, and then project that back outwards, to help your family and your friends and your communities. And I think, I saw earlier today on a video on Facebook, the lady was talking about, we only need like 1 million people to raise the consciousness of themselves to help the rest of the earth raise it. I don't know what that exact number is, but I don't think we need everybody to do it at once. We just need a strong group of people to focus and lift our vibrations, and then that's going to radiate out. And so I think Star Knowledge Conference is doing its part to try to get that done.
I absolutely agree with you. And there's a lot of conferences out there that have a lot that I've been to and spoke at, that had a lot of ego and competition and hoarding of knowledge. A lot of people are, have a big arrogance about what they know and what they want to share. But I love to align with conferences where people come together and they want to share the information, and no one's hoarding and there's no ego and no hierarchies. It's just sharing wisdom and knowledge. And what you said to me is very personal and very important, is the indoctrination of children. And that's what I focus my work on, is, what that woman said to you, I believe is very correct. And the way I explain it to my audience and a lot of the clients that I work with is, if you can just simplify it in an elementary level, the dark energy, in comparison to the light, we're 10, 20, 30 fold, maybe even 100 times more bright. So it only takes a smaller amount of the collective to awaken and activate, and their toroidal field expands, and we increase the vibration of the planet. We are more powerful when we come together and we unify, that we can affect millions of people. So we don't need everybody to activate and awaken, because we, in essence, can activate millions ourselves. That's how powerful we are when you tap into the light, and then when you combine the light. And so I'm very protective over these newer generations of children, because they're grossly mislabeled on purpose to separate them from the rest of the children, to lessen their gifts, and they can't be indoctrinated. So they had to figure out a way to go work around their high frequency and high density of consciousness. And I believe a lot of these children are the ancestors that are coming back to reclaim the land and to activate us. And Yssah made a good point. You can't activate these artifacts unless you have the right codes. And a lot of these children and a lot of us are activating these codes, these ancient codes, because we are the activators. So this is just, it's a beautiful time, but we have to protect and educate the children in the way that is conducive for them to thrive, where they actually pursue knowledge instead of being indoctrinated, which is the work that I focus on. And I'm really happy to share that at this conference, and talk about the children, because they are our future. Nikki knows she has 5 of her own. I thought I had 3's a lot for me. I can't imagine 5. Oh my gosh. But I love my children. They are my world, and I would do anything for them, and I would do anything for anyone else's children. Like, I am a divine mother. That is my purpose, I believe, in this planet, is to bring the divine mother energy. But not everybody is here to bring divine mother energy. Everybody is here to bring and play their specific role and bring in their divine blueprint.
Yeah. Now that you were talking, Sherri, well, everyone was talking about the ego and the role that it has been playing ever since humanity is here. And of course, well, not to get into other stories, but one of the things that I have seen about the ancient wisdom regarding to the indigenous tribes is that the way that they approach is from humbleness, because they know that it's a spirit providing, so it's not, I assume, I acknowledge myself as the creator, yet I'm extension of source. So there is not any higher power than source, yet when source comes through me. So I think that's a huge, huge difference when, like, from where a lot of people is coming from through the ego. And that doesn't make children feel safe either, because then you're trying to open a space, but from ego. So then there is judgment, taking place. But when you expand your message by knowing that you are a fractal of source, and from that space of humbleness, then children feel safe, because they feel safe enough to become vulnerable, to be vulnerable, actually. And I think that humanity has lost a lot that comfortability with their own vulnerability, because as soon as you become vulnerable, then you will feel attacked, But the thing is that when we're coming from a higher level of consciousness, and I know that, speaking of just the amount, the percentage that is required to make a big shift, we don't need to take care of all humanity, just doing our homework. And I always say that the best way to expand a message is through embodiment, not trying to convince anyone. It's through our own embodiment that we start echoing into the heart of the others. So we just start with communities, how the ancient wisdom taught us, showed us, communities that keep growing and growing. And I know that we are heading there. Bret was also talking about what, like different possibilities of what can be happening or not. And I do believe that if we focalize our power, then we will be in no need of thinking what can be happening, because we are doing our inner homework. We are remembering, helping one another, and doing it from a space of acknowledging that it's not about me. I think that's a huge key also for community, for success, to be in communities, which is, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for a higher purpose, a unified mission. And then when I reach that point, then I know that I am the mission. So I'm not just putting myself as, like as a carpet for people to walk over me, which is difference, like just saying, oh, I'm doing it for everyone else but me. No, that's very different than doing it for the unified mission, because again, that's when I remember that I am that unified mission.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all are, and it's about remembrance and embodying that strength, that unity, and being humble about it. I think is the hardest part in this reality, because of the indoctrination of this competition and division, that they work so hard so that we don't remember and we don't unify, and we look at each other as different races, different sexes, well, anything they can to push us against each other, so that we create division, and then the ego takes over. And then that's when we have separation, fear, war, rage, racism, everything. And children, we're not born that way. If you look at a child, they don't see those things. They see the beauty in each other. And if they don't feel the beauty, you know what they do? They walk away to another direction because they don't want anything to do with it. But they don't fight. You know, they learn it through watching others. You know, it's nature versus nurture. So Aron, Bret, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about that you think is relevant about, you know, what you're going to be speaking about, or what you think people should know about the conference, and, you know, why you recommend they come?
Yeah. So Nikki's the only one on this little show here that was actually a little girl when these Star Knowledge conferences were started. So she was a child and she was raised up through this. So she has a unique perspective. I think, Nikki, you're what, 11 years old when your dad started these conferences, give or take. So, you know, Nikki was playing around, running around the trees and the bushes while the speakers were gathering and having deep philosophical conversations. The other thing is the skies in Pickstown are dark skies. So you're going to see a lot of stars. If anybody has some of those, what Bret was referring to, some of those goggles, please bring it, because there's a lot going on in the skies that you can see. And oftentimes we will go out at night after you know, some of us will just go out and stargaze and send our love out to the heavens and see what comes out of it. And oftentimes you get some twinkles here and there, you know, above and beyond the stars themselves. So. May I just read a few words from Nikki's dad that he wrote in the introduction of this book?
I would love that.
Be okay? Would that be okay?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
So, my hand is open to all those elders of the Turtle Island who wish to share their message, dream, and vision with the people of the world, for I cannot do it alone. Through our teachings, we know that not one individual holds the knowledge and mysteries of life. We were all given a piece of the puzzle. We are all part of the sacred hoop that needs to be mended, and we must make a humble effort in this task. If the seventh generation, our grandchildren, and the unborn are to survive this next awareness. My life was molded around the teachings of the Tunkasala, which means grandfathers, and they instilled in our spirit as children. My spirit has directed me in this effort to help our brothers and sisters of the four directions. I have already chosen not to fail the Tunkasala.
Wow.
That's so
Powerful.
beautiful.
Nikki, what do you think when you hear that? Like, how do you feel?
Well, first of all, it's hard not to cry.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it does take a lot to stand up for what you believe in and the truth, and, you know, letting it out there, and knowing how much hatred or things people say about you. You know, he didn't do this for himself. He did this for us kids and grandkids.
Oh. Yeah. It's, you know, that's why one of my books is called Courage to Change, the freedom movement, because if we want to be free and sovereign, we have to have the courage to do the inner work and to put ourselves out there and have a purpose. You know, I am not working tirelessly day and night for my daughter and my kids only. I mean, I have a grand vision, and it drives me every single day, and I'll never give up. Just like your father, just like our ancestors, just like so many before. If you have a passion and it's not about you, and it's bigger than you, you realize the significance of it. And you carrying this forward, Nikki, is tremendous. Shows your character and how courageous you are. And it's a beautiful thing. So I want to thank you.
Yes.
Also, speaking of activating, we're in, I don't know if you can see it. If you can draw that symbol and circle it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we call it the hamburger.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that.
What was I?
So there's three messengers, and one is Eagle Man. He helps one lift from material to spiritual mind. The other one is Masters of Egypt, grounds divine presence. And the third is Ishdato, is sets eyes on Creator. So if you draw that, activates that.
That's cool.
Well,
That's
You know, I think this is an important thing to say too, Nikki, is that these symbols were actually found on the Crash for Roswell craft. They were on I-beam bars, and in 1995, when her dad was teaching a workshop in Savory, Wyoming, he was taken out of the cabin where he was in the middle of the night by some Orion masters and was shown these symbols, and that's a whole nother story. Now there's got to be a couple hundred videos on YouTube of Nikki's dad sharing these stories. So you know, that's pretty fortunate that you can do your own research and find that. But so they're basically universal and spiritual laws. It's an interpretation, a humble effort to help, just another path. There's many paths, but a way of bringing us more in harmony with the heavens and the earth and the laws that govern this universe, such as the law of divine love, the law of forgiveness, the law of harmony and unity, laws of family, all these things, and in harmony with nature and all the life forms on this planet and throughout infinity.
This is actually one of the topics that I will be touching upon, because codes and symbols, you know, are so powerful, and mainly when they carry that pure frequency as these ones, because it's a way, like, you can explain it from quantum physics as the holofractal field. They knew it. They were playing with plasma and activating as holograms, activating them as holograms, and breaching into all these nexus, this cosmic nexus. So that's very advanced. And the more that people is aware of that, it won't be ancient wisdom only. It will be the ancient future, you know, brought into this present. So that's super powerful. This is why I'm telling you guys that this is one of the ways that I remember it, because I was, you know, like doing all these practices, shamanic practices and so forth, and it started activating my brain in so many ways regarding to the holofractal field. So, and there are many ways that you can explain physics through the indigenous ancient wisdom, you know, a lot. It's not like everything, actually.
Yeah, I don't know what that noise was, but I wanted to put this comment up here, Nikki, not to call you out or to get emotional or anything, but you know, Deborah's right. You know, this is the time where we should be proud of who we are, where we came from, where we're going, what we're in support of, what our mission is. I cry all the time sometimes, you know, and I don't have any shame. We got to get it out, and that's how we heal, and that's how we grow, and that's how we evolve. And I just think I wanted to say something Bret had mentioned, you know, I think it was you, Bret, in the beginning of the conversation, you know, many, many years ago in the 90s, and people were barely able to come out and speak about this because they were the crazy wackos and the weirdos and the psychos and the ones that should be in mental hospitals and all of this stuff. Look how far we've come. And I just think that it's so synchronistic, Nikki, that this 30th anniversary Star Knowledge Conference falls on this beautiful year of the fire horse of this disclosure movement. And now is the time that, like, people are ready. People are so ready that they are thirsty for this information. That's why you have 20 plus speakers. That's why there are so many conferences all over the place, because people want to know. They want to remember, or they are remembering, and they want validation. They want to hear more. They feel it in their soul. We're all activating and awakening, and the codes and the wisdom and everything is just coming through our pores in such a beautiful way. And it's emotional, and it's beautiful. Thank you for banning them. Yeah, thank you for doing that. So, wow. Any last words that anyone wants to share or talk about this evening before we wrap up?
I just want to say that I've been to many types of events, from the largest of the large, like Alien Con or Contact in the Desert, to some just like MUFON meetings, right, in the San Francisco Bay Area, with like 30 people or something. And Star Knowledge Conference has that air of intimacy. It's a little smaller conference. We want to make it a little bigger, of course, but the magic of that is that everyone gets to see each other and meet each other usually. And the conversations that are sparked in a smaller group, I think, are more than in a bigger group. I think there's more isolation with a larger amount of people, as ironic as that may sound. And it's just, there's no other conference like it. And I would encourage everybody out there that's thinking about it to jump on that bandwagon and reach out to Nikki, get your hotel, get some tickets, and let's make some magic in June. I think it's going to be awesome.
I agree. Any other words, Aron, that you want to chime in with?
No, Bret, that's right on. These Star Knowledge conferences, because they're intimate, like Bret said, I find that it supports the speakers a whole lot, because all of us here, you're going to other conferences and speaking in the work that you're doing. I find that this intimate setting in the middle of, excuse me, Nikki, sacred Podunk, South Dakota. It's sacred, and it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's on the Missouri River. It's a sacred place. And so you come away with your cup filled, and that what you're thinking and what you're feeling is actually you're right on, and you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are in that same alignment.
Yeah, my favorite conferences to go to are the smaller ones, actually, in my personal preference. I like the more intimate ones because you do get to know each other better, and the conversations are amazing. People have their guard down, and people are more trusting and willing to share. And there are no VIPs, and we just all hang out together. And they are my absolute favorite ones to go to because it's just relaxing, and it's a lot of fun, and you learn a lot, and you grow and make new friends. So I'm excited to meet. So I think all of you, I know two of you, but I've never met any of you in person yet. Oh no, Yssah, we did meet once. But any last words, Yssah, that you want to say? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, to someone who asked me if I'm coming to the UK, I guess talking about another conference, yes, I am. And about this conference, I just want to say that if you want to nourish and activate within you this sacred Native American tribes within you, these indigenous codes that will restore big part of the archives of Earth within you and bridging them to the galactics, to the cosmos, then even though it's my first time in this conference, I'm pretty sure that we will be achieving that and much more, because right now, all this information is emerging again from the surface, not only through artifacts, it's like the gates are opening. And if you are there, you will perceive it, you will receive it again from within. And tuning into and connecting at a deeper level with one another, as everyone said, when it comes to smaller conferences, you can get a closer form of connection with everyone. And if you feel that you have a mission there, then join us, because it's not only about listening, also speaking. It's also about something very specific that will be activating and that you will be activating in that land. So if you feel also this calling because it's part of your mission, you will be nourishing us and our field with your own codes, then come and join us. We will have a lot of fun for sure. And again, I couldn't be more grateful for being part of this. And just to finalize with one last question. If you ask yourself, what is your role in this co-creation to bring back the unity in the indigenous tribes, to bring back that wisdom, to remember through them, why are they so important? Why are they calling in now through the elements, through the field, for us to listen to them and be there for them? Because they have been holding the codes of the earth, they have been guarding them, and now it's our time to occupy our place. So what is your place? Thank you.
And this
Absolutely.
conference has nothing to do with the business of ufology. This is it's actually a spiritual conference, and not everybody's comfortable with that. Some people just want to talk about flying saucers and stuff or whatever, UAPs or whatever. But when you get to down to the bottom of it, it really comes down to the unity consciousness, that cosmic Christ consciousness, that love consciousness, becoming childlike again. And this is just one of the many parts of the spiritual journey on Earth. You know, this whole new awakening that's going on the planet, this new human race that's coming out of this new awareness.
Yeah. And just one last thing. I'm sorry, guys, but this is super important because normally when people use the word indigenous, they relate it automatically to how it has been used for years. But the true etymology of indigenous is in Deu, which is God within. So that's how powerful it is.
That's beautiful. You know, I am a firm believer that when someone creates a conference or a workshop or a retreat, my way of thinking is always those that are supposed to be there will come. So everybody that is presenting at this conference, everybody that is going to come in to be a guest at this conference is there for a reason. It is not accidental. It is not accidental that Nikki chose the presenters that she's chosen, whether it's the first time speaking there or their third or more. It's what is divinely being called on the land right now. And we are being called to be there and to be the guardians, the supporters, the activators, to be the bridge, to hold the space, to be that, to be part of the awakening. And that's what excites me about all of this. So again, Nikki, I've said this 17,000 times, but I'll say it one more time. Thank you for having the courage to being brave, putting yourself out there and putting this on. I know it's a lot of work to put these conferences together. Is there anything else that you want to say this evening to kind of close up?
I want to invite any of the past speakers to show up if they want to, and I'd love for all of them to come back every single time because they're amazing. And even people who have just been there for the past 30 years show up. You know, as far as tickets, you can get them on Eventbrite or at the door. And also, if you're not coming in person, you can get online tickets as well. But yeah, thank you, Sherri, for putting this on.
Thank you, Sherri.
Yes, and
thank you for showing up.
One quick announcement. Nikki has graciously offered for one of the raffle prizes for my virtual fundraiser event this Friday, on the 3rd, that one lucky winner can either choose to go to the conference or watch it for free. So thank you for donating that ticket. I really appreciate that, and I hope to see you guys there on Friday night for our fundraiser. Well, that's going to be tons of fun. It was wonderful meeting you, Aron and Bret. Thank you so much for coming on tonight and honoring us with your time and your knowledge. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Love you. Thank you all.
We're going to see
Thank you.
all of you guys in June at the conference. So hope to see you guys there. Much love to everybody watching.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.